Welcome to the Big Money Stylist podcast. I feel like today's show honestly needs a drum roll.
Okay. We haven't done one in a while.
Let's
bring it back.
Ready? Let's bring it back. Introducing... Garrett's not here. Oh, wait. Keep going.
Glad you noticed.
That was a shitty drum roll.
Should we try that again?
Oh, I'm over it. Hey, welcome to the podcast today. We have had so much positive feedback on this podcast. It's been like amazing.
I know.
I think we're ranking still number one in fashion and beauty.
Yep.
Yes. So, I mean, like, obviously what we're sharing, people are liking and finding value in it. So that's amazing. And today I'm going to actually let Ani introduce the topic because I'm pretty sure this is her favorite topic of life. So go for it.
Yes, it is one of my favorite topics of life. So what we're going to be discussing today is profit, and not just the profit of money, but actual numbers, and with the numbers that we actually go through inside of BMS and Big Money Stylists and with all of our mastermind students, which anyone who knows me knows that I am a super big psycho numbers person. I love talking about it, and it's my favorite. But before we get to numbers, we have some super and very, very exciting news.
Yes.
February 24th was the day, and on that day, we began selling tickets to BMS Convention 2. We were looking to sell 300 tickets, and as of this morning, Coach Val, would you like to tell them what we did?
Now we need a drum roll. Bring it back.
Drum roll, please.
Bring it back.
We sold out!
Oh, yes, we did. We are officially sold out. We have sold 300 tickets in a matter of 26 days to BMS Convention Part 2. So for all of the texts that I'm still getting at the moment as I see my phone buzzing, I'm sorry, we are sold out, but I will send all of you guys a link that you can go through and be put on a wait list for all of our classes that now BMS is officially sold out of all of its education until the fall. And before anyone asks, no, we are not releasing dates or times just yet. That will be coming out later, but I'm geeked out about this.
We have more classes this year?
Oh my God. The answer would be yes.
You know what?
Did no one tell you?
I just have special news coming in the fall, so, you know. I'm just kind of preparing myself. I was just wondering, like, you guys individually call each and sell these, like, do you have sales call nightmares?
Yeah. Just panic attacks anytime the phone light goes off. I'm like, oh God, I got to sell the ticket. And the calls are fine. It's just finding time to do them in between.
That's
like,
what I'm
live.
saying. Like, it's fine. It's just like 300
I'm like on
calls.
the phone on the weekends. I'm like, go Sawyer, score the goal. So did you want to have any more questions about NDR? BMS includes this. You did it, Lennox. Woo!
You know what? I can appreciate that because I will say when I first started my brand and doing extensions, I did consultations with everybody because I wanted to make sure everybody was a good fit. And as a busy mom, like I went through this phase where same thing, I'd be driving and I'd be like being all professional and then I'd be like, hold on, let me just grab my card reader, and I'm like pulling over in my car. Shut up, kid, just shut up. Mom's going to take somebody's card really quick. Okay, that's great. I'll see you on Saturday. So, it's like I can appreciate the hustle and I get it. So go you guys, go team.
Go team.
It's been really great though. It was so fun. And so are there more events coming this year? Yes, there will be more events. There will be more of our small BMS intensive courses that are 2 days and only 20 people inside of every class. We actually sold out of all of those throughout the summer, the second week of February. So we've been sold out of that for a while. And will there be another convention this year? Yes, there will be a winter convention. And for all of our mastermind students that are listening, we do have a special surprise for you guys regarding convention.
Oh.
Details won't be released yet, but get excited because it's a fucking good one. So with that, we're going to be talking about numbers and profit and everything that we actually have all of our students track on a weekly and daily basis and why it's so important. So Danielle, we're going to come to you first.
I get nervous when Ani's like, so Danielle, so bad. So dun dun dun. I'm like, what did I do?
I'm going to mess it up.
Why do I feel like Ani, I'm always in trouble? Like she comes in the salon and people are like, your boss is here. I'm like, my boss? Who's my boss? Who's my boss?
And I feel like I'm so delightful and dainty. What do you mean? I'm a tiny human. It's fine.
So scary. So scared of Ani.
Boss is here.
It's my aura. I'm sorry. It's so big.
Okay, I'm ready.
Lord,
oh,
yes.
my mic is, I'm not going to touch my mic. It's doing something weird.
Yeah, I heard it kind of glitch for
I know,
half a
I was going to turn it because I feel like I'm hunched over and cut off by the mic. I'm in this weird yoga pose trying to talk to you. But okay, I'm ready.
No, so when it comes to numbers, because obviously inside of Mastermind, we do have a very big focus on tracking numbers. So why is that something so important to do?
Honestly, I think that I'd like to bring up, sorry, I have hair on my lip. Hold on. I'd like to bring up what I call the artist ego. And I am guilty of it as myself. And it's like, oh, I made like, I did extensions this week, or I had a really awesome month. But when I do my numbers, I'm like, oh shit, reality check. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's important because like I'll hear Silas, or I'll hear people in general be like, oh, I made $2,000 off that client. And I'm like, don't talk to me till you're consistently making those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's important to be excited about that and to celebrate about that, but to not create too much of an ego, because I think an ego can be destructive in actually pushing us forward where we need to go. So if we actually like take a step back and we do our numbers and we're like, oh my gosh, like I did have a couple of those clients, but I'm also doing a shit ton of men's cuts, or why am I cutting all my clients' kids' hair too? I mean, if you add up the time, like time is money. And so you have to kind of be very smart with your time and numbers and things like that so that you're moving and progressing forward in your career and in life.
Coach Mackenzie, do you feel like you've ever been in that spot where you found yourself, you're like, I'm making great money, I'm making so much, and then all of a sudden you started tracking numbers and you were like, well, fuck.
Oh, absolutely. I think every month I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so good. I'm getting better every single time. And then I do the numbers and I'm like, oh, I still haven't hit that goal. I just keep wanting to go forward and forward. But as soon as I check my numbers, I'm like, oh, that ego sets in halfway through the month. And then you're like, oh, I'm doing so good.
I think it's good too not to like get discouraged too. Because like if you see the numbers, a lot of times it's like you don't want to be like, oh, well, whatever, screw it then. You don't want to go in with that attitude. It's just to bring like awareness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to not hide behind, oh, I had 2 good clients this month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Well, and not only that, something very cool about actually going through and tracking your numbers is that you see your growth, not just through a short span of time, but a much longer span of time as well. One of our students actually just sent me a text, this was 2 days ago, and she said, Ani, I thought you should know. January of 2017, I brought in $7,000. She's like, and that was like a good month. I was super stoked. She goes, January of 2018, I brought in $17,000.
that's a huge jump.
She's like, she goes, I knew I was doing better. I didn't know how much better I was doing. I had no idea what was happening. She goes, but the minute I did the numbers and went back, she goes, I could not believe it.
I got chills a little bit. You know what's crazy? And I think that's why it's so important. I'm sure in a lot of education companies, if you're a part of their mastermind or their online education, they're not requiring you to show your numbers to the group. And that is such a vulnerable place to be, and it's so scary to be. But it's cool because you can act, it's like a reality check, and like you know where you're at. And the other thing that's cool for me is like hearing those numbers, I can literally use it as proof, like saying like, if you're in our program for this amount of time and you implement the tools that we are giving you, you will see results. And it's crazy because like you'll hear things and people will be like, oh, a 10% increase, and you'll see this. I'm like, we are fucking doubling people's incomes. That's is so amazing. Cool, and even like tripling. And so when I hear numbers like that, like I literally get like chills through my whole body because I'm like, that's why I want it. Like it's about the hair and it's about the extension, it's about the technique. But literally, when I started this journey, that's what I wanted. I knew that what I had created for myself could impact and help so many other women and other stylists. And it wasn't just like, hey, here's the NPR. Hope this works out for you. I literally have proof. I literally have proof because we do the numbers with them and we make them share them. And it's scary, but it's actually such a positive experience for everybody that's there, you know? So it's cool.
Totally.
It's cool to hear those things.
And I think one of the biggest things is, like Danielle, you just said, it's scary to share your numbers because we've been raised in a culture and a society where if you tell someone how much money you make, you're trashy. Like that's so taboo. And so you don't talk about it. You don't share it. You get your money, you squirrel some away, probably from your husband so you can buy shoes. I feel like I hear that one a lot, but that's fine too.
I feel like you're looking at me directly on that one.
You're like, I'm very open about my shoe fund. Thank you, though. That was not towards you. But I feel like we hear that a lot. And I think what's very cool is we've created a space where our students are very comfortable sharing that now. They don't feel like it's weird. They know they're not being judged. It's just a matter of where are you actually now? If you have no idea where you're at now, and I've said it before, you don't know where you're going. You have no idea what a realistic goal can actually be to move forward.
Right.
I think too, like with stylists, you know how we always put that we're successful because we're busy behind the chair. So I think a lot of times when people first come in the program, they're like, oh no, I don't need to like track my numbers. I know I'm making like bank. And I think they're like super surprised when they track them for the first time. Like, dang, I work 6 days a week. I was busy working like 9, 10, 11, 12-hour days, and this is what I made. And it's always like a reality check. But then it makes this shift where then it like drives you to do better. And like, I want this month to be better than last month. And it's like a driving force to push you to do better. But I always find it interesting in the beginning when stylists come in and they're like, oh, I'm so successful. And then they like actually break down the numbers and they're like, oh, crap.
Well, and this happens at every level. Like, even me as a business owner and a salon owner and how big our education is getting, even me, like, I'll be like, we're doing like 10 million a year, you know, and then I do the numbers. I'm like, okay, not quite there, but we're doing amazing. Okay, sorry, I don't know why that's doing it.
I might have you, Kenz, can you put your microphone? I don't know what's happening.
I was like, it's your cell phone. Tell people to stop texting you about education,
It's not happening. I'm currently texting our camera guy going, Danielle's mic is glitchy. You need to get your ass down here and fix this. Please and thank you. But no, and especially what you said about artists who we work 12-hour days behind the chair and we're like, oh, I'm so rich. Look how tired I am. I made so much money.
Look how tired I am.
Yeah, and I think we literally use our exhaustion almost as like a form of currency. We're like, well, I'm dead this week. I must have made so much money. And I came from that place. It's your
barometer of success.
Exactly.
Nope. You know what? Damn it, I gotta have someone's mic because I have. Oh, there. I'll use.
Don't break mine.
Oh, I'm like cursing the mic today. So I was like thinking about this the other day, and this goes to do with like numbers with hair extensions. And it's so funny because tracks and rows have always been known as something that you can't charge a lot for. Do you know what I mean? Because people with like, say, individuals or Great Lengths or any other of the bonded ones that take quite a bit more time, and those are maybe like $2,500. And that's probably on the higher end for extensions. But if you have somebody doing those, it takes way, way, way longer. And I think that it should be based on results, like with hair extensions. You know what I mean? Like, so that's like one of the things I was like thinking, like with extensions this week's specifically, is I was like, why is it that people think of rows as not being like a higher end service, or they're like, oh, well, it's not individuals or it's not this. When you're getting a better result, it just seems weird. Right. And so as I was thinking about that this week, I was like, that's like something that I want to train my stylists and teach them, that like if you're more effective with your time and you deliver a better experience for the client and results, you should charge that much. You know, so that came out of left field, but I was just like, I literally was thinking about that today with like value and pricing and things like that. And I'm like, who says that we can't? Because with the Russian hair, like my new price is $2,500, and people think that's crazy because I book them every 2 hours. And I'm like, but for the price of the hair, and I value my time, and I'm like, and they get like an amazing experience. They're out of there quicker. They get a better result. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I'm like, that's one of the things I feel like as stylists, we kind of have to retrain our mind. Like, if you're that stylist, because you were talking about being like exhausted, and we measure money through that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What if you had, like, I only take 3 clients a day. You know what I mean? And so you charge premium pricing, but you're effective with your time, and you base it off of result, not time burning out behind the chair.
And I think clients have also been trained that way as well, because not only that, they're like, well, you did this in 3 hours and you're charging me how much? And it's like, well, I'm very good at my craft. I'm good at what I do. I'm fast. I've trained on this. Yes, but they assume because it didn't take that much, you weren't there for 8 hours, that you don't deserve to charge that money.
Right. But as a client, I not only am a member of the hair for as a client, because I wear these too, like I would pay more if I had a better experience, a better result. And so you're right, it is about retraining the client as well, because they'll be like, oh my God, well, I don't want to pay $1,500 just for the hair. I mean, you did that so fast. And so it's like, I know, but look how amazing your hair looks. And it's just a shift in the industry in general with hair extensions, I believe.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, like, time is money. Like, no one has time, no one has enough time, so why are we thinking that way? Right. We want more time.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we've told ourselves the more tired I am, the less time I have, the more money I'm making. Right. So with that, we're going to not jump topic, but go into what we call the General's Tent inside of BMS and Mastermind. So that is a form that all of our students fill out every single week. And it, like I said before, it literally goes top to bottom, down to the clients that they had, how many clients they had, the money that they made, even down to how much money did they make per hour. And the really great thing is, not only do we keep track of this, and we do look at the numbers every day, Anytime anyone's turned in a general's tent form, I have entire spreadsheets per student that they can actually go back and see, like, hey, this is how I've been doing this past year. So the very first topic I want to talk about is the first two things that we keep track of are something called Daily 4 and Power Practice. Our power practice for NBRs, we do require our students to do NBR practice every single day. That's obviously insanely important, and it's vital. So Val, why is it so important for our students to be doing power practice and doing NBR hands-on every day?
Because that's the only way you're going to get better. You need to get into the mode of where like NBR is like muscle memory when you're doing the technique. That way you can still have the artistic side. And the only way to do that is through repetition. And if you're only doing it on clients, it's going to take you like years to build it up, your technique. So we found a way that if you practice daily, like you can like fast track that to success. So
are you able to tell the students who do it religiously and the ones who are like, yeah, I totally did it that one time 3 weeks ago?
Yep, totally. It's super visible in their work, because like once you start like getting better at one thing, you'll notice something else in your technique, and then you're able to improve on that. In the beginning, it's kind of a shit show for everyone, you know, like, and you're just trying to get through it and get the motions down and not be all thumbs. And then as you get through like all of that, then you're like, oh, okay, now I'm working on my beat tension, now I'm working on like making sure everything's on base, now I'm working on the end beats. Like there's so many tiny intricate details of NBR, and the only way to get better at it, like I said, is doing it over and over again. But as the students do it and really implement it and aren't like, oh, I'm just doing this so I can check in that I did my 15 minutes of practice, I've seen their work like grow leaps and bounds, like way faster than we've seen like in the past. So if they're committed to it, absolutely they grow like way faster.
It's funny.
Mike.
Sorry. I'm just going to yell and hope you guys hear me. It's funny because people will come, they'll see me do it and they'll be like, how do you do it so fast? But because I have a lot of practice and experience, there's a lot of little things like Val was talking about that just become second nature. And like, I'm not really thinking about the technique as much. And I'm literally, for me, it's like the focus goes into like, how am I going to blend these colors and place them and do all that. And so, yeah, I think it's important so that you can focus on what makes it look, if you get the skill set down and the tactics down and it, like you said, the muscle memory down, and you're just kind of like doing it. Like I can do it like literally with my eyes closed, but then I can put more thought process into the blend. And that's one of the biggest problems I see with hair extensions is just the blend. The blend, it's so crazy. And it was so funny because I'll get people DM me or comment on my Natural Beaded Row extension page, and they'll say, what formulas, or they'll say, what color hair is that? I'm like, let's just get this out of the way.
Here goes.
You should never, ever just swatch the hair and just be like, it works. I'm sorry, it drives me nuts. Like even like most extension hair comes warm, and most hair fades out warm. And here's another common problem with hair extensions. I know this has nothing to do with our topic, but I'm just going to go there. So I think a lot of times, like, say clients are attracted to like cooler colors, right? They want cooler colors. So oftentimes we'll take like a level 6 or something that's like a little bit warmer. And if I'm going to tone their hair, I'm going to mirror that and I'm going to tone the extensions. I will never swatch the hair. Like sometimes you'll get like a pretty close, like a blonde that's pretty dang close, but I'll still even like, we'll do our vanilla toner. We'll whatever you're putting on the hair, if you're toning the hair, if you're tweaking it, you mirror that on the extensions so that flow is just like spot on. And so I think that's like one of the things in extensions that's not done or taught. And then the other thing is I like doing that because the undertones of most clients' hair is going to fade out warm. So when the extension hair fades out, everything fades out together. There's nothing worse than seeing somebody with a warm ass head of hair and then these icy ashy extensions. I'm like, barf, do you have extensions? Thank you. Please let your colorist come to an NBR class and we can help correct that.
And as off topic as you think it is, it's really not, because at the end of the day, you learned all of this. Not that you were bad at doing hair before, but all these tiny little things that you learned through practicing. And given it was sometimes on clients' hair, or even taking old hair that we don't use anymore, taking it home and practicing there too.
I was a victim with that client. I was like, they come back, I'm like, oh shit, that doesn't blend at all anymore. Well, you figure it out as you go. And then as I figured it out, I try to educate the importance of like mirroring this and mirroring this. This is one head of hair. This is not Sally and Susie. This is just Sally. So let's make Sally match.
Perfect. And so then with that, the second thing that we have all of our clients or all of our artists actually go through and keep track of is what we call our Daily 4. With our Daily 4, it's just the marketing that they're doing, and we do require them to do 4 things every single day. The first one is post a picture. The second one is do a video, which we prefer live videos, but YouTube is also good as well. And then from there, it's picture video. We have them send an audio message to a client every single day, and then write a text post every single day. Now, with this is one of the hardest things that they ever have to keep track of and actually do, because it does take time, it does take effort, and it's something you have to get into the habit of doing. But it's insanely important, because I tell everybody, you can have a funnel, you can have a website, you can have a blog, you can have every form of marketing in the world. If you don't have a way to lead people to that website, you are just one of the millions of bloggers across the world with a website that nobody ever goes to. That shit does not make you money if you can't get people to actually go to that website. So Mackenzie, you were one of the very first students that ever came to BMS, and we had to implement Daily 4. How do you feel that's affected your career and also keeping track of it as well?
Absolutely changed everything for me, because for so long I was just like swimming along like, oh, I'm doing good, I have an Instagram, I have a website, I have all these things, but I wasn't tracking any of it. So it kind of came to that mentality of like, oh, I'm doing really good, or oh, I have no idea how I'm doing. And then once I started tracking it, it changed to where I could say, oh, this month I got this many leads, let's see if I'm doing more marketing, how many more leads can I get? And tracking it made me realize how much more I could actually be doing.
Yeah, and not only that, you have to realize marketing changes. We even said last week or a couple weeks ago that we were going through and trying to figure out, we were doing paid advertising for NBR for the DKW salon. We have no idea how that's working if we are not keeping track of it. So at the current moment, we have 5 different spreadsheets that we're keeping track of. They're a lot of fun. I actually really like them.
I think that marketing in general should be continued education, because the trends are always changing, and like what worked with hashtags 4 years ago is irrelevant now. And like it's so funny. I was listening to a book called Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, and I really like him. And he has a new book out, but it's not on audio yet. You know me, I don't like to
only
audio for me, because I put it in the fast motion and I'm like, whoa, I finished that book so fast. But anyway, I was listening to his book because I want to read the new one, but I'm going to wait till it comes out on audio. And I was like, this is such good content, and I wish I would have read this 4 years ago. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, it's already everything that he talks about seems so almost like past, you know? And I'm like, it's just crazy how you have to stay ahead of the game, and the marketing is definitely continuing education.
Yeah, it doesn't just stop. Marketing is not something that you do once and then you're like, I did that one post on Instagram.
You can't be like, I got my website, I'm done for life. Like, yeah, it doesn't work that way.
No. And so those are the first 2 things that we keep track of, our Daily 4 and Power Practice. From there, we go into what we say are leads, applications, and consultations. So Danielle, I'm going to come to you on this, so that everybody assumes that. Val's like, please take it, actually. But everybody assumes that.
Like I need to drag this over.
Kenzie's being very
Guys, I got it.
That looks bad.
It's cool. I got it on camera. Don't worry. With that, oh Lord. But with that, people assume that every client who texts you, every client who contacts you, any person who says, hey, Danielle, I want you to do my hair, people get fucking jacked and they're like, yes, I had 300 people say that they wanted me to do their hair, but realistically, not every lead that comes in is a good one.
Yeah.
So talk about that, how people assume that every lead is a good lead when realistically we're looking for quality.
It's not, and it's so funny too, because I was like thinking, I'm like, gosh, why do people fill out the application and submit their photos, and then sometimes you follow up with them, and like I'm sure even with the education, you guys, and then they're like, why the fuck are you emailing me? And you're like, you filled out my application. You know what I mean? So, but I think sometimes what happens, and I'm guilty of this too, like how often are we scrolling through Instagram or something, and it's like free just sign up here, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, and you go through and you like fill it out, and then you're like, oh, I don't really want to do that webinar, you know, and you're like, but the thing is that's probably like somebody who hasn't like really like warmed up to you yet, and they may continue to follow, and then they might be like, oh yeah, I did fill out the application, I didn't really care now, but I do care now. I've done that a lot of times too, like with certain things. I'm like, I reach out to people and I'm like, nah, never mind, and then like 6 months later I'm like, I need it right now. So
I lied. I do care.
I do care. I know. I want it. I don't even remember what you asked me.
Talking about how leads and how some are qualified.
So sometimes you'll get leads that I think it just depends on if they're a cold lead or a warm lead. And in marketing, that's like a warm lead obviously is somebody who's been following you for a bit, and a cold lead is somebody who you're just new on the scene. And I'm just gonna touch base on this really, really quick, and it's not, again, a little off topic, but when you're doing, say you're using a funnel or you're deciding to do some kind of a paid promotion, if you're not huge, if you're not L'Oreal, if you're not Redken, if you're not a household name, like you have to convert mindset, because people don't know who you are. You can't just put up, oftentimes like a pretty picture, and that's won't always sell people. So you have to convert their mindset as well. So with our marketing, even we have people come in, and it drives them in with a pretty picture, but then they go through a whole video series, and we're talking about like our experience with hair. And for me specifically, I talk about how I had crappy hair and how I created the system and how it works on my hair and other types that I've tried. And then with the education, we talk about like not slaving around, and we just share our experience, and I think it helps people warm them up quicker. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you can take a cold lead and you can go warm real quick, and you don't need a million followers, and that's what people are missing. And they're like, well, how the fuck are they doing it? I'm like, because we know how to convert mindset. We have good work to back what we're doing, so that's key too. Like if you have a lead that comes in, but you don't have somebody comes to your salon and you have a shitty experience, guess what? Over time, you'll fade out. And it doesn't matter how big your number is on social media. If you can't deliver an experience that backs up your number on social media, see you later. Like you're gonna just kind of die out. And so I people are wondering how we're doing it, but that's how we're doing it. Is we're figuring out how to convert mindset and take a cold lead to warm within a matter of a 10-minute video and not a 6-month time period of following.
Yeah, and with converting mindset, as Danielle is saying that's not us, I feel like I need to touch base. That's not us sitting here convincing and forcing clients. We're not like coercing them saying, but you want it, you have to come in, you want to just, no. They are literally sitting at their home, on their couch, watching, they're watching Bachelor, I guess, is that salon even? They're watching Bachelor, or they're sitting in front of their kid's school, inside their car, waiting for their kid to come out, watching these videos. They're changing their own mind. They are putting value into NBR and what we're doing, and they're telling themselves that they want it. It's not us, we're not your friend inside Nordstrom being like, you should get those shoes. Yeah, no, they'll be great. You'll wear them for sure. And then you buy them and you're like, I'm never fucking wearing these shoes. Like, can I return this? Like, wait, what's happening? Because that's what happens. If you convince someone and you push them, it's buyer's remorse every single time. And that's something that you have to be very aware of.
I think with sales in general, if you come off like not authentic, or if you come off too salesy, people don't really like it. But I think if you just, like, we believe in what we do, and we have the experience inside the salon and inside of the training to back what we're actually saying.
Yes.
Like, people, what's cool and rewarding for me is that when people come sit in anybody in my chair, they say, I love the energy, I love the vibe here, like, you guys are amazing, I love my hair. Like, we very rarely, every now and again you might be like, someone's like, oh, I don't know if I like these extensions or whatnot, but everybody in general, like, we have so much positive feedback, and for me, that's like so cool to be like, yeah, we actually are how we look. You know what I mean? Because unfortunately on social media and everything else out there, there's a lot of salons and a lot of people who don't back up what they are saying they offer. They don't. And so I just think that that's like something in general with hairstylists that we should raise the bar. Like, it bugs me so bad. There's a lot of people on social media who have an ego, and they're like, well, I don't need to retain clients because I got such a big following, like, in, out, and done. I don't give a shit about you. And I'm like, who are you? Like, get over yourself. Like, I'm sorry, but let's take it back a notch, because I believe, like, people like, I don't know, like in the beginning, Tony and Guy, salons like that, they were very much about the client experience. You look at a nice salon that's doing super well, even LA, New York, whatever, you better believe, like, it should be about the experience. And I think social media has tarnished that a little bit. And it bugs me. And if you're that salon or that stylist that's like, I got a big following, like, I can... You're disposable. Like, fuck you. Like, change your mindset. It just drives me nuts. And I'm constantly like, if we have a complaint or something that happens inside of our salon, I might be a little triggered, I might be a little offended, and I always look at Val and I'm like, well, obviously there's our flaw in our system, so how can we be better? And you can't ever take it personal, and you have to always look at any kind of experience as, how can I deliver a better experience so that I can back what I'm actually promoting that I do. So...
And so with that,
that was my rant.
I liked your rant.
I wait for Ani to reel it back and be like, well, with that.
Thank you, Danielle. And no, I'm kidding. I don't know what they say on the news. But no, so with that, that's really what leads are. At the end of the day, a lead is someone who has said, yes, I want to come sit in your chair. They reach out to you, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook. If you have applications, they're going to your website. And we've talked before about capturing permission and getting their email. That's what a lead is someone basically saying yes. That is the third piece that we actually keep track of inside of our general's tent. The next part are the actual applications that you're getting. Now, I'm sure if you're listening to this, and I had someone say this to me yesterday on the phone, by the way, with BMS Convention, we have every single person apply to either sit in our chair or attend any of our events. The reason being, you can fill out the application to get NBR. NBR might not be for you. You might not fit in, this sounds terrible, you might not fit inside the vibe that we have inside the salon. We might not be your people. You might not be our client. So that's really what it comes down to. It's not just an application of, is NBR good for you? But that's why we talk to every single client personally to make sure that your vibe and our vibe, that we match, because we want all of our clients leaving happy. We never want anyone upset or mad or angry. And so with that, we do the same with BMS, with our small BMS intensive classes and BMS Convention, which is sold out. I'm still excited. But we do it with that as well. So excited. I talked to a guy yesterday. He filled out the application. I sent him a text and I said, hey, here's the information. Let me know if you want a phone call. He said, yes. When I got this fucking dickhead on the phone, I could not believe him. He said, well, I can't believe you made me fill out an application. That was very off-putting. And he was trying to power play me, because on the phone, I sound very dainty. In real life, I'm also very tiny and dainty, but, you're not fucking stepping on me. Nope. So I told him, and he's literally trying to talk over me. And I said, you know what? I go, here's what it is. At the end of the day, BMS is not your typical hair class. What we do is we are here to change the hair industry and turn it upside down. So at the end of the day, BMS is not for everyone. We ask a lot from our students. We push hard, and we ask them to do so much work that if you're not dedicated and willing to even do something as simple as fill out an application, then this course and this training is not for you. Let me tell you, he spun on his fucking heels. He's like, I know, it's so simple. It's just an application. I would be like, are you fucking kidding me? You just sat here being a huge dick for like 3 minutes until I came back and said, you're fucking crazy. The answer is no. If you don't want to come, don't fucking come. I don't care. And he was like, oh yeah, well, it's just an application. Who wouldn't want to do that? I was like, you've got to be shitting me right now.
It's hard because we get so stuck in our ways. And even as a trainer, it's hard for me not to get offended because like you, I want to be like, stop being a dickhead. But then I'm like, no. We're collected. I'm like, and so I have to like logically be like, like you said, we're trying to change the game. We're trying to flip the hair industry upside down on its face. And we can't do that by simply saying like, here's a link and buy your ticket, because we actually care. And we can't, what was working in the past is no longer working. And you saw that. And that's what got you to have this conversation with me, is you saw something different. So trust your heart and go with it, and don't let your ego get in the way and say, why do I have to fill out this application? You know what I mean? And I think if when we go about it and we explain it and we're like, listen, we're doing things different, people are like, oh, okay. And so we have to let go. Like, you were kind of a douche right there, but that's cool. Like, we're gonna let it go. It's business, and let's join the team. I'm glad to have you on the class. Did he sign up?
Yes, he did sign up.
Thank you. Whatever your name is, you're gonna have a good time. Come say hi to me.
But if you're listening to this, you know it was you. Don't be rude.
Hey, you know what? I love people like this. Sometimes people like this, they end up being like superpower players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, don't worry, you come say hi to me. Like, we're gonna be friends. Like, I'm excited to have you.
I'll remember you. So Val, I'm gonna come to you about this. When you first came to DKW, applications, this was a whole new ballgame. This was completely different. None of us, I think, had ever seen it. And Danielle was like, fuck this, you're gonna apply to sit in my chair.
Right.
What was the difference that you saw beforehand of like, you knew like, oh my God, anyone can come in, as opposed to later when you're like, they have to actually apply to come sit here with us?
You go into your day like confidently, because you already know like who's going to be in your chair. You've already had a conversation with them. They trust you. You trust them. So the vibe starts out amazing. And then because that vibe is amazing, you're able to deliver like your top quality work, because you're not like, oh God, you're not having that awkward meeting for the first time when they're just now sitting in your chair, which is what I was used to. If I ever had a new client, it was like, surprise, as they sat there, and you're like, oh, I super hate you, and we're only 2 minutes into this appointment. Like, this is not going to last.
There was so much work in converting the mindset and gaining their trust previous to the application process.
Yes.
And like as a hairstylist, if you're listening to this, like you guys know, like that's half the battle. Is like when you get a new client sitting in your chair being like, all right, I'm the professional here. That's why you're sitting in my chair. And I'm going to take a minute and nicely convert your mindset so that you let me do my art.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you have that conversation with them ahead, like you're saying, like you get there and you're like, how are you? I'm so excited. And even when we have other people do the consultations in our salons, like we have the application with photos, their history, because like sometimes you'll do a consultation for me, I'll do a consultation for you, whatever. And they know like who they're booking with based on like availability and things like that. But then it's so cool, like when they get in the chair, I review each one of the applications of new clients before they come in, and I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, so you tried these extensions and these extensions, and I got your inspiration photos, and they just like, oh, and the client's already like, oh,
even that is a nice experience for them. So it's for us, but it also makes for the client that much better because we have like information on them and we're able to like bond with them on certain things. But
well, think about like this sounds so silly, but like think about when you go to a high-end hotel or restaurant. They're like, Mrs. White, how are you? And you're like, how do you know my name? It's like thank you. Stupid little things like that is something in our industry that we should be implementing. Not like, oh, you're just one and done, and you're just like another one that like, see you later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it needs to shift and it needs to change.
And I think that's what starts like the whole what we're delivering at DKW Styling and what we're trying to get like all our students to deliver. We keep saying like the experience, and it starts with the application and getting that right client in your chair, and then you're able to deliver an amazing experience throughout their appointment. But it starts from the very beginning.
And you've really touched on the second part. So once they apply, they go straight to a consultation. It used to be with Danielle, and now myself, Val, and Coach Mackenzie, we handle all the consultations for DKW. And then from there, the consultation is really to find out information about the client themselves and what they're looking for, why they applied, and really what they're wanting the end result to be. And so from there, Val, we're coming back to you on this one.
Oh, good.
Garrett has named you many times I don't know. He has so many creative names. But basically, Val's really good at closing is what this is. I fucking dropped the ball. I'm sorry. I didn't remember that nickname.
Wow, that name is so cool.
He has, okay, let me say, Garrett, I don't know where he gets this shit from, but he has names for anything and everything, and Val's a assassin closer. Yeah, Val's the assassin. There we go. I don't have the deep voice, but you get the dainty me one. So closing, that is definitely a skill that you learned. So how is it that we do closing inside of DKW, and why do we do it that way?
It's to make sure everyone's on the same page. So sometimes when you're going through the consultation, you'll get like red flags and you're like, oh, they're not quite ready yet. And then you bring that to the client's attention, you know, like, you're not quite ready, you know, so we'll reach back out to you in a little while. And then that kind of makes them like think like, oh man, now I really want them. Like, and not that we rejected them, but they weren't quite at that. They would have had buyer's remorse, you know, so we'll put them off. But when you start asking the right questions, and then usually there's something like you can bond on, like we wear the extension, so there isn't a question that they can ask about NBR that I can't answer for them. And then I had tried a million extensions before too. So once the client's like, oh, I tried these extensions and I didn't like this about them, I'm like, amen, girlfriend, like same, you know? And so you're able to like bond, and like it brings back like a personal connection that like the industry was lacking for so long, where it's just like get the client in, mix the same formula, get them out, pay the same exact amount every single appointment, the like robotics of it. And now we have like the application, and we're bonding over the phone, we're getting a story. You're like, hey, this is what I can offer you, this is how I can make your life better with extensions, this is what I found, you know. And there's this conversation going and this relatability that's going on with the potential client and the stylist, and it just again starts the experience. And there's just that connection again, where it's not like you're just a number sitting in my chair, because you're not. I hear your problems, I feel your problems, and I want to fix them for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also when it comes to that is, so we figure out how many leads they have. From the leads, how many applications did you get? From the applications, how many consultations did you actually do? And from those consultations, how many deposits did you get? So Danielle, obviously you've been doing this for a long time and doing all your own deposits and everything. Now she's getting 2 mics. And so with that, talk about getting deposits on the phone as opposed to like, I'll call you later and we'll do this. And
yeah, I just think it's important. Like if you're talking to somebody and they're ready, we don't need extensions. We don't need a nice handbag. It's not a necessity. I mean, I know you would beg to differ, Val, but like, we can live without extra hair. We can. And so it just becomes like it is an emotional buy. It is an emotional sell. You don't need it, and it's like when you put something in your shopping cart online shopping, and if you don't buy it, then chances are like, you might not, but you sometimes get emails and you're like, hey, look what you left in your cart. And you're like, yes, I did leave that in my cart.
Oh, I hate those, because then I'm like, God damn it, all right, I'll get it.
Yeah, sometimes those work, and sometimes I'm like, how dare you email me and tell me what's left in my cart?
Stop pressuring me.
Which I'm sure that's how people feel when my auto responses go through. In fact, I had I never get responses back from the automated because I think people know they're automated. I just have like a series. It's like 5 emails and they're spread out. I don't think they're that pushy, but I get a response the other day. A lady goes, I will definitely not be interested in this service based on how pushy you are. Or like something, I didn't even open the email. I just saw that in the caption. I was like, hurry, delete, that's bad energy. But I was just like, oh my God, whatever, you're going to follow and you're going to call me 6 months later, so shut up. And I don't want to. See you soon.
My favorite is an email or an Instagram message I got once saying, I follow all of the things that you guys do and you guys are mean. And I'm like, thank you for following our podcast and our blog. I appreciate it. Okay, that's great.
I know. It's bad. I don't even remember what you asked me.
Deposits, but you got it.
Oh, yeah, deposits. Yeah. So it's just important. Like we always tell people, I'm like, okay, to reserve your spot on the books, we need your card info right now.
Like, so cute,
Danielle. And I tell them, I'm like, if you want to wait and think about it, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not going to push you. I'm not like never. But I will not reserve this spot. So I'll go over dates that's available. I'm like, this is your stylist and this is the days and here's how it works. But if you want to book with this particular stylist or myself or whatever, like we book up quick. So this is, and if you need to think about it, great. But then it could be another couple months. And I've done that too. Like with this girl I wanted to book eyebrows with. I was like, I can't pull the trigger. And then finally I decided to pull the trigger and I'm like, damn it, I could have already been like in her chair yesterday. So you know what I mean? But I wasn't ready. I wasn't like emotionally sold and ready. So when we do the consultations, like if someone's ready, we're like, hey, let's collect the deposit right now.
Yep. So that's the only way you get onto our books. And people are very surprised by that. I talked with a woman yesterday and she's like, you need a deposit? I'm like, yeah, it's a deposit to hold your appointment on our books. And she's like, well, I'm not prepared for that. I'm like, okay, no big deal. I'm like, this is Danielle's next availability. It's June. She's like, but what? I'm like, yeah, if you wait longer, I'm like, it'll probably be July.
I don't know why most people are cool with it. Like, I don't know. Again, it's something in our industry that needs to change. Like yesterday, I went to book a party for my daughter's, she wants a magician. And I'm like, cool. And I call and they're like, we need a $200 deposit for the party. I'm like, no problem. Gave him my card right then and there. Why? I'm like, you would expect that from a food catering company. Anybody, like, why can stylists not demand that? So that's something like I think should also change in our industry, because there's a lot of times in here where like people unfortunately like cancel last minute and things like that. I think that there should be a cancellation policy, and I also believe that there should be a deposit, even if you're not offering extensions. I think that if the industry changed, and imagine even if it was just for a color or a cut, and they took 10 minutes and they really got to know that client and what they wanted, and at the end maybe it was, you know, if it's just a haircut or a color and they're like, hey, it's $100 deposit, you know, like how much better would they get on like no shows and like their schedule being booked out and people taking them more serious. It's just not accepted because it's not something done that often in our industry. But I'm all about you guys, everything we do. I'm like, I'm not looking to keep it the same at all. And that's why we're doing things a little bit different.
Yeah. And so then the very next part, after we figure out how many deposits they've collected, they write down the amount that they've charged. There are three main things that we look at next. There's how many NBR clients they did that week, what they charged the NDR clients, which I don't mean charge by like credit card charge. I mean, how much did your services total? And then how much did they tip you? So, Val, we're going to come to you on this one. Why is it? She's like, oh, fuck, I wasn't ready. So why is it?
I don't doubt, I'm sorry.
She's like, can you repeat the question, please? So,
still here. Got it.
We go through and we keep track of how many NBR clients they did, how much they charged, and what they tipped. And then we also go through and keep track of how many non-NBR clients they did. So it's the haircuts, the colors, what they charged, and then what they tipped. Why is keeping track of those two things separately? Why do we do that? Why is that so important?
You got this. You got this. So I understand the question. Thank you.
I feel like I'm in a spelling bee. Can I get the definition, please?
Because eventually it paints the picture of why NBR is like so much more effective for your time and your profit. So that's why we keep it separate, so you can see I did 2 NBR clients and made more than what I made in the whole week doing like 36 other clients. When you see the numbers out, it kind of blows your mind and you're like, I got to do shit differently. And some people are kind of hard-headed and they think they already have the answers, but they're just like in the course to like learn maybe a little nugget here and there. But then when it's like painted out so specifically for them, then they're like, holy shit, why am I wasting time doing these kids' cuts? And then it's easier, I feel like, for like a mom, like, I obviously am always relating to them, but you spend so much time away from your own family, and you're like, this isn't worth it. Like, I'm away from my family all day long, and I only made this amount of money doing everyone else's kids' haircuts. Like, no, if I'm going to be away from my family, I'm going to make the most of my time. And actually, this beautiful NBR number picture painted over here is what I want to do.
I think sometimes, too, in the beginning, people will say, well, I'm making more money doing all these other services. And I'm like, well, you need to break it down into time then. What is it per hour? So you work 12 hours this day, but you only worked 3 hours this day. What did you make per hour here? And what did you make per hour here?
We're coming to that.
Oh, well.
You're ahead of the game, and I like it.
It was funny. I was talking about, like, the social media hustle, and I was like, basically, you're doing all this, like, engagement, and you're getting paid $4 an hour. So it's like you have to factor in time. Stop bragging about how much time you're not spending with your family or your boyfriend or your husband or whatever it is. Like, stop bragging about that shit. Like, how about you figure out how to make that money in a smaller time frame so that you can have a more balanced life and actually enjoy your work.
And it's better to show them, not tell them. So we can say all day long, like, do this. This is how you can be the most effective with your time. Charge this, whatever. But when they see it with their actual numbers, it clicks with them in a different way than if we're just standing in front of the class and saying, this is what we do. This is what we make. When they see, so they see the actual story. And then that moment has to happen for them to make the shift mentally to, like, want to do things differently.
Right. Absolutely. Which brings us to the next part that we keep track of, which comes to actual numbers and what you're doing behind the chair. So after we figure out this is how many clients you did with NBR and other, this is how much you charge per service, this is how much they tipped you, we go through and we say, how many hours did you actually work last week? How many days did you work last week? Because I know for myself, before I started doing NBR, it was 6 days a week. It was minimum 50 some hours a week. Like, that was an easy week because I was doing 12-hour days every day. And then from there, I was making $4,000 a month. Fast forward to right before I moved to California, I was working 3 days a week, 3 clients a day, 9 hours a day is all that was, making $20,000 a month. When I saw those numbers and looked, I was like, oh, fuck, like, this is insane. And I did that, which, by the way, I did the math the other day, fun for me. I went from the very first BMS class of May of 2016 to 8 months later is when I went fully NBR. 8 months is what it took me. And that's why I sit here today leading the podcast, because I, like...
She's a fucking psycho.
Thank you very much.
That's why I call her boss.
Hey, Garrett and Danielle said jump. I said how high, and fucking, like, bled and did anything and everything to be here, which is really why I'm here. So with that, we keep track of their hours that they work per week and the days that they work as well. And so that goes through to, we have your total amount of dollars that you made that entire week, from the deposits that you took, the clients that you did, how much you charged them, what they tipped you. You have your total number. So Mackenzie, I'm going to come to you because we were one of the first that ever had to implement this, going through and actually figuring out how much money you made per hour, because tell them how to actually do the math on that. It's super easy.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're totaling up how much you worked every single day, and then you're dividing that by how many days you worked in the week. So what was funny for me is when Val was talking about, oh, everyone has this clicking moment. That totally happened to me, and I was making really good money, but what was happening is I wasn't seeing my husband at all. So it was like, oh, yeah. Like,
Danielle laughed. She's like, hee.
I had all this money, and I was like, oh, this is great. But, like, by the time I got a day off, all I wanted to do was sleep, and that's when online shopping became a problem.
Everybody has their outlet. It's fine. We don't judge you.
Yeah, we all do it. It's on. But it's funny because it's like you have all this money, but, like, you're not having the quality time that you want with your family or your kids, and that's really a sad thing. So tracking that is so important.
Mike.
Someone mic her.
It's so funny because people will carry out that pattern like you just talked about, where you're like making great money and you become addicted to the money, and like you put your relationship or whatever it is on hold. And it's so weird. Like, I'll see people do that for 5-10 years, and then I'm like, how are you going to repair that? You a lot of times you can't. People get divorced, they break up, things like that, because it was a false relationship. And so that's another big thing that we want to implement is, like, take your life back. Like, take your life back. Like, always prioritize your time, and always have your boundaries of how many hours that you want to work. And when you set that up, and even for me, when I go above like my balance, and when I go above more than what I want to work, I'm like, I have to raise my price. I have to, because to continue to progress in life and to continue to learn and grow, you do have to charge more. It is just how it's just how the world works. And so for me, I'm like, but I don't want to burn out. I want to be a mom. I don't want to burn out all my relationships. I want to enjoy life. What's the point of making good money if you don't have time to build relationships with those people that you care about and that you can experience life? I want to experience life. And so I just wanted to like touch base on that. Like, I think a lot of people fall in that trap and they think, well, I just need to hustle for a couple years. And then a decade goes by and they're like, well, shit, I don't even like you and I don't want to be married to you anymore. So, but hey, I got all this money, which is then it becomes so unfulfilling.
Or how about then at that point you have all the money, but your relationship is garbage, so you get a divorce. Now you don't have money or relationship. Yeah. Now
well, and I think it's funny too, because in our industry that's accepted. Like everyone thinks that that's okay. Where if we have so many stylists in the mastermind who are like, oh, I raised my prices and I'm so afraid because clients are coming to me and they're saying like, well, how dare you raise your prices? I think Ani had that happen like 8 times. How dare you raise your prices? Tell me when you get a money tree. And it's like, how is it fair that any other industry can raise their prices and no one bats an eye? But for some reason we have allowed it in our industry to be okay. It's and any other industry, it's okay for doctors to work, whatever hours they want to work. But in our industry, it's not acceptable if you don't work Saturdays, and it's not acceptable if you don't work weekends. But we've allowed that as artists to be the norm, and it's our responsibility to change that.
Yeah. One of our artists right now, I'm not going to say her name because I don't know. I think she's announced it to the world that she's pregnant, but she messaged me the other day privately and said, I'm fucking stressed out, man. Like, I don't know what to do. I want to drop more clients. I want to raise my prices, but I'm so scared this and that. And I said, you're pregnant. I'm like, do you realize you are about to bring your own little human into the world, your very first one? I'm like, what are you so scared of? To make more money, to have to be behind the chair less, to actually have time to give to your firstborn child. I go, do you not realize by upping your prices now, you'll have more time later? She's like, I know, I'm already seeing it. She goes, I already see now. She goes, I'm not worried about going on maternity leave because I've been making so much more money. I'm like, then what the fuck is the problem? I'm like, you're already taking these hard steps. Keep going forward. And she does turn in her numbers every week. And so, like Kenzie just said, we keep track of how much you're actually making per hour. Because a lot of people, they're like we said earlier, I'm exhausted, I'm rich. And then you're like, I made $30 per hour, which I know someone is going to message us and be like, I make $30. Are you calling me poor? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is an average inside of the mastermind program, our artists are making at minimum $100 an hour. So why slave away for $30 when you already know at minimum you should be at $100? By the time I left Missouri working for myself, I was over the $200 mark per hour. And that made me realize, going through, looking at all of my clients and all of my services, I am worth this. So if I'm going to be investing my time into work, is it worth it knowing that I'm worth $200 an hour at minimum? Is me taking time to do anything worth giving that up? Or being away from work, or even coming into work to do what? Like an updo? Or no offense, a kid's cut? I was like, nope, no, it's not. Because I already knew what I was making per hour. And on top of that, the last 2 things that we actually keep track of inside of Mastermind, we do keep track of your dollars per hour, so how much money you make per hour, but also dollars per client and dollars per day. Because like we had touched on earlier, you assume the more clients you have in your chair, the more money you're making. But we all obviously know that that's not true. So Danielle, dollars per client. It's not so much it is quality. It's not so much the quantity of clients as opposed to quality. So touch base on quality clients.
Well, for me, because I felt like I always loved doing color. So forever, like pretty much like half of my career, I would do color and extensions. And then I was like, no, I have to do just extensions to make the numbers make sense to me. And that's actually when I launched my whole brand, is because I was like, oh my God, because that was like the first year I converted everything from like a little bit of this and that, and like, when a good client of yours like, can I bring my daughter in and can you cut her hair? But it takes you an extra 45 minutes because you won't fucking hold still. And you're like,
it's the worst.
And so I had to be really firm, and like I was like, no, I got to cut this out. Because at the time I did have a brand new baby. Like I had my second baby, and it was weird because I think before I had kids, I was just like, might as well. You know what I mean? And kids does something weird to you. All of a sudden, it's not just about you anymore. and you're like, okay, well, I gotta be there for my kids. Sorry, it is what it is. And so that's the first year that I decided to go just MDR, and I saw I was like, oh my God, I quadrupled what I was making, and I was only working 2 days a week. It was crazy, and I wasn't working 12-hour days at the time. I was just it was just a 9 to 5. I was like, oh, that's so fun. Hair got fun again. And that's when I was like, oh, so not only was I kind of loving my job and my career, and all of a sudden I wasn't treating it as a hobby. Because I felt like I was kind of treating it as a hobby, even though I was working a ton, because I felt like the numbers didn't match up. So for justification for myself, I was like, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom and I do hair as a hobby. But really, I was doing it quite a bit, and I was taking a lot of everything. And I said it was a hobby because I just felt like I wasn't producing enough to really own that I was a professional. Do you know what I mean? And then when I had kids, I was like, that's lame. That's lame. I'm not willing to just do hair as a hobby anymore. And I have to make sure that my numbers make sense, and I have to make sure that I'm taking on quality clients that produce the results that I want.
And not only that, knowing that if you're going to do a kids cut, you're going to make $20 in that hour. Is that $20 worth being away from your children for another hour?
Right.
It never is.
The answer is no.
Belle's like, I'm gonna jump in on this. No. Move on now? No. I love your one word.
And I'm done.
And thank you. And that's really what it is. So then the very last thing before we wrap up is actually going through. So it's dollars per hour, dollars per client, and dollars per day. And this one came down big to me for my Saturdays. We're taught and you're raised with the idea that you're a stylist. You have to work Saturday because everybody's off Saturday. I was not off Saturday. Am I not included in this everybody? And so I sat down and I looked and I'm like, I make thousands of dollars per day, and that's wonderful, but I'm like, is it worth never having a weekend off? I'm like, nope. So Danielle led the way once again. She cut out Saturdays, and then Val was like, I don't want to work Saturdays, and Danielle goes, don't fucking work a Saturday.
I think too, though, it's important too, because we do have a couple stylists that work Saturdays, and I always tell them, I'm like, build up your book to where you feel comfortable. Like I said, prioritize your time. So build up to your books based on how much time you want to work behind the chair. And when you get to that point, if you don't want to work Wednesdays, don't work Wednesdays. If you don't want to work Saturdays, don't work Saturdays. And clients will cater to that more than you would think. Mm-hmm. And especially with extensions, because it's a niche. And so they're like, it's not like they're like, they get panicky. They're like, oh my God, okay, well, I'll get off work early and I'll make it work. And a lot of times people will do that. They'll just, and think about when you go to a doctor's office. Even when I take my kids, I have to pull them out of school. I'm like, oh, you're not there Saturdays and I can't come after 5. But that's the norm for going to the doctor. And that's the norm for a lot of businesses. And so we accept it, and we make time in our schedule, and we're not like, that fucking doctor, he's such a dick, he made me come at 2 in the afternoon. That's what they do. And I'm not saying like I'm a doctor, but there's a lot of businesses that have that standard. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that hairstylists chose that they have to be that slave, and you don't. You can operate just like any other business or whatever hours and days you choose to work. And so like I said, some people will work Saturdays, and like Stacey, she likes working Saturdays. I told her, I'm like, you don't have to book it. And she goes like, no, I want Saturdays. It's fine. I'm trying to build up a little bit more.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, at any time, if you don't want to, you can change that. And she's like, okay.
But that comes from an option of knowing she's choosing that, not feeling forced, not feeling stuck and enslaved in that. So with that, we're going to be wrapping up this podcast today. And here's what I really encourage you to do. Yes, it has been an hour. I know. I really encourage you to go through, listen to what we said today, and go do your own numbers. You don't have to share them with anyone. You don't have to post it on social media, but go forward in your business in a place of just truth and facts, not, well, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I have a ton of clients, I'm obviously making great money. Go forward and look at where your business actually is. Look at the numbers, look at the facts, and decide, are you in a place that you're happy? Are you actually happy with the money you're making? Are you happy with the amount of time you're spending behind the chair? Are these numbers making sense to you? So Danielle, final words?
Final words. It might be rough, but take a good look in the mirror.
And with that, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.